Cybersecurity is not a nice to have, it's a must have.
It's the tech sector still seeing growth even through all of the tariffs and market volatility.
They've been seeing revenue and earnings go up on a year-over-year basis.
MarketBeat's Chris Markoch shares a list of 7 cybersecurity stocks that are helping to hold up the portfolios of retail investors all over the world.
Over 50% of the company's revenue right now comes from outside the United States.
From some mainstream names that lawmakers and institutions are buying,
one of those stocks that members of Congress really like,
to some of the lesser-known hidden gems that could mean big profits for growth investors.
For investors willing to take that risk, there could be a nice payoff down the road.
Which cybersecurity stocks could actually help grow your portfolio even through all of this volatility? Let's dive in. Chris, so great to have you back on the show today. I'm looking forward to hearing all of your 7 stock picks in cybersecurity. What about this sector has you and investors excited right now, even in kind of this volatile market? Why is cybersecurity a good place to look?
Right now, Bridget, it's really the same story in 2025 as it would have been in 2024 and in 2023 and before that. There's a constant threat environment for corporations right now from malware and other types of security threats. And that threat environment is only expanding as generative AI has entered the picture, because just as there are cybersecurity companies that are using AI to ward off threats, there's also bad actors that are using generative AI to try to come up with more creative ways of breaching a company's security system. So cybersecurity is not a nice to have, it's a must have, especially when you're dealing with enterprise level companies. And that's why spending in this area is only going to go up over the next few years.
And that's a really good way to look at this. It's kind of like a consumer staple where you have to have it no matter what the cost is,
Correct.
No matter what's going on in the economy, you just need cybersecurity. That's a great
And it's a relatively tariff-proof industry too.
Yeah, that's a really good point. So a little bit more safe from all the volatility we've been seeing the last few weeks.
Software is going to be a place to be rather than hardware.
Well, that's a good starting point, Chris. Let's jump right into your list of 7 cybersecurity stocks investors should be looking at right now. What's your first pick?
Sure. The first stock pick is Palo Alto Networks, ticker symbols PANW. It's the largest of the cybersecurity stocks that we're going to be talking about by market cap. It's been profitable since 2023, which is something that not a lot of other companies in this space can say. The company has been undertaking a platformization, that's their word, strategy, in which what they're doing is they're allowing customers to kind of use different aspects of their cybersecurity offerings. And that means they can use the Strata, which covers the firewalls, Prisma, which is for their cloud-based, and the Cortex, which is for AI. And they're seeing that right now this strategy is helping, as customers can bundle one or more of these tools into what they buy from Palo Alto. It's working really well. They've been seeing revenue and earnings go up on a year-over-year basis, and now they just seem to be accelerating that. And we also know, anecdotally, that Palo Alto is one of those stocks that members of Congress really like.
Yeah, that was the question I was going to toss to you, is that I think that's another good indicator on the future of the stock, because there is so much congressional buying on a company that has plenty of government contracts out there too. So that's a good indicator that there's some strong future growth. I also want to look at just how this stock is holding up through all of the market volatility we've seen over the last few weeks. How's Palo Alto doing, and is it a good time for investors to get in?
Sure. Well, so like almost any technology stock, Palo Alto suffered a sharp sell-off when the whole tariff situation was announced. But since then, it's gained back about half of that loss. And that's because I think investors are starting to come around to this idea that cybersecurity stocks aren't going to be as affected by these tariffs. And so you've seen a lot of investors rush in and buy the dip here. That being said, Palo Alto still is trading a little bit higher than the consensus average, but I don't think that's anything that investors are going to have to worry about right now. I think, in fact, they might even want to see a little bit more of a pullback so they can get in at a better price. But right now, Palo Alto is trading in a buyable range.
All right, let's move on to your second cybersecurity stock pick, Chris.
So the next few that we're going to be talking about are a little more niche in terms of the cybersecurity space, but still a good buy. The next one I'm going to be talking about is Fortinet, ticker symbol is FTNT. They're recognized as the leader in firewall hardware. Now, when a lot of people think about firewalls, they think about what we were using 20, 30 years ago. These firewalls that the company uses are not like that. In fact, Fortinet's the only company that uses application-specific integrated circuits, ASICs. And that's how they build their physical firewalls. And it also offers software that runs on top of that hardware. And what that allows Fortinet to do is sort of holistically examine a business, look at all of their different divisions and how they work together in the enterprise. And the company had over 50% of the market on these ASIC chips last year. So again, it speaks very well to where this company is and the base that this company has right now.
We recently had another video talking about this stock, and I looked at the chart, and it is totally doing the opposite of what the market did. As the market went down, this stock seemed to be really performing well. But it does leave me with the question of how much room is left to run. Is there still a really good future ahead for this company?
Yeah, you're bringing up a really good point. Once again, like a lot of companies in this space, Fortinet stock has risen, and it's right now, it's right about where the consensus is for analysts, and it's primed for a pullback. It does report earnings, I think, at the beginning part of May. Investors may want to wait to see what happens there before they get involved, but this is certainly a stock that you could see running higher, especially if they have a good beat on the forward earnings.
All right, let's move on to your third pick. You said another kind of lesser known name.
Right, I think it's a name that's becoming more common. The name is Octa, and the ticker symbol is OKTA. So they are known as specialists in identity access management, and that's rooted in what is called in the industry zero trust technology. That is, as its name implies, it means that for somebody like you, Bridget, if you're getting into MarketBeat's network, it's going to automatically assume that you are a risk unless you can verify using whatever methods that they need to that you're not a risk. That's the zero trust. So once you verify yourself and your identity, then you can use the devices on the network. That's what Octa does better than other competitors. That's their specialty. Octa took on specific significance since remote work became so prevalent since 2020, because companies had to figure out ways to make sure their networks were secure when you had workers logging in literally from anywhere across the United States and the world. So their top line revenue and their earnings have been growing steadily since then. Now, one of the concerns here is that since last year, the company hasn't necessarily been consistently profitable, but analysts seem to have a fairly favorable view of the stock. Of the stocks on this list, it still looks like it has about a 15% upside from current estimates. So Octa may be one to watch, but investors will want to make sure that they see that the company is clearly on a path to profitability.
Yeah, does that niche nature of this cybersecurity company specifically kind of limit its profitability future and the growth potential, or is there just really a wide reach for their services?
So I think the answer is it's a little bit of both. I think the concern that investors would have is that you've got companies like CrowdStrike and Palo Alto that'll probably try to eat into that. They'd kind of go below the line maybe with their services and try to target specifically what Octa does. At the same time, Octa is entrenched with companies, and with stuff like cybersecurity, oftentimes that tends to be an advantage because once you're in place, there is a cost of switching that some companies just will say, you know what, we'll just stick with what we've got.
Another good pick. Let's move on to the next stock on your list.
Right. So the next stock on the list is SentinelOne. Ticker symbol is S. That's all it is, just S. Now, SentinelOne is one of the newer companies in this space. It's only gone public since 2019, and this is a mid-cap company. So far, we've been talking about all large caps. This is a mid-cap. It only had a market cap of about $5 billion as of April of this year. The company started out with an exclusive focus on endpoint security. That's the devices, again, that connect into networks like phones and laptops and different things. But it's built out its services, and now it's actually saying that over 50% of its revenue comes from somewhere other than endpoint. So that's encouraging, and the company is starting to offer generative AI solutions So this is a young company, but it's growing, and they've been growing their revenue steadily on a year-over-year basis. But again, the caveat here is this is a company that's not profitable. They haven't been yet. And at this time, investors may be turning away from companies that aren't showing profitability. But if you've got a good risk tolerance, SentinelOne might be one to watch.
Because it's a newer company and has that risk associated, is it a lower cost of entry to get in?
You know what? It's a lower cost of entry, certainly from a price standpoint. You can buy SentinelOne shares right now for under $20, and that's attractive to some investors. But you are taking on a little bit more of that risk. However, analysts give the stock a moderate buy rating, and the consensus price on SentinelOne as of us taping this right now, Bridget, gives it about a 46% upside. So, again, for investors willing to take that risk, there could be a nice payoff down the road.
Yeah, that sounds like a really good pick for growth investors. And if
Yes.
you are more of a growth investor out there, check out this free premium report on MarketBeat.com right now. It's called The Next 7 Blockbuster Stocks Just for Growth Investors, a place where you can actually find some really big gains. You can scan the QR code or click the link we have right in the description of this video to get that free report and look at those 7 growth stocks right now on MarketBeat.com. All right, Chris, let's get on to the next stock you have in your list.
Okay, so the next stock on my list is Cloudflare. Ticker symbol is NET. The reason why I chose this, there's actually a couple reasons. Number one, again, we're talking about companies that have a niche in this space. Cloudflare's is that they focus on cloud-based cybersecurity. Obviously, almost everything that a lot of corporations do today is in the cloud. So therefore, it's essential that you have cybersecurity for that cloud architecture. However, one of the reasons why I liked Cloudflare in this space is because over 50% of the company's revenue right now comes from outside the United States. So they've been growing their revenue year over year, just like many companies in this space. Another caveat is, again, this company is not profitable as of yet. But I thought that at this time where international stocks are getting some run and companies are looking for investment opportunities outside of the United States, this is kind of one way to invest outside of the United States, but you can still buy a U.S. company, and that's what Cloudflare brings to the table.
Now, what about this company makes it so much more attractive to more of those international names? And does that diversification all over the world and attractiveness across the globe kind of make its earning potential even more than some of the other companies on the list?
I don't know if I can say for sure, other than to say that the company, their headquarters are in San Francisco, but they do have operations in London and Singapore and other locations. So that might be what's really driving that interest from international companies. They may just be more aggressively targeting those countries.
Yeah, another interesting pick for sure. The sixth pick you have for us is something some investors prefer, and that's
Right.
looking at cybersecurity as an ETF.
Yeah, we always like to kind of give fund investors a place to go here. And one of the picks that I have in this space is the iShares Cybersecurity and Tech ETF. Ticker symbol there is IHAK, IHAK. So as of April of this year, the fund had $896.75 million in assets under management. So it's still a fairly small fund, but it's growing. It was founded in 2019. So again, it's still a fairly young company, and it tracks a market cap selected and weighted index of large and mid cap stocks of cybersecurity companies. One of the perhaps attractive features of this ETF for investors is that no single holding has more than 5.4% of the weighting in the fund's index. So that means you're not overly exposed to any particular stock in the fund. That's good and bad. Some investors might prefer that you allow more weighting to the stocks that are performing better, but in this case, or they might say we want more weighting on the larger cap stocks. In this case, they're just trying to say the weighting is more evenly distributed, which some investors also tend to prefer.
Well, it certainly gives you a little bit better protection if maybe some of the leaders have a big falling out, like your last pick, kind of the more controversial pick on your list, seems to have.
Right. So the last stock on the list here is CrowdStrike, and the ticker symbol is CRWD. And you're right, Bridget. Some investors may say this is a controversial pick. Others may not feel it's controversial at all. But we kind of all know what happened with CrowdStrike last summer. There was a glitch in a software update that caused an outage across the country. It affected several of their customers, and the stock price plummeted shortly after that. What some investors may not know is the other side of that story, and that is that after this outage happened, after this glitch, I should say, the company's CEO personally visited with many of the affected customers and personally apologized for it and offered these customers compensation packages, which allowed them to use several of the company's services on their Falcon platform for free. Now, what's interesting to me is that since last summer, CrowdStrike's made back a significant portion of whatever they lost in the outing. From the outing, they've gained that back. In fact, you could say they've gained all of it back. And what's intriguing to me is that these compensation packages are going to be rolling off throughout 2025. And now it'll be interesting to see if these customers decide to keep those services, and then therefore that's more revenue for CrowdStrike going forward. That seems to be what is exciting analysts right now.
Yeah, I think the analyst said an interesting part about CrowdStrike, though, and part of why this pick is a little bit more controversial, and that's because it's already performing better than what the analysts think.
Yeah, it's pretty significantly above where the consensus is, and some analysts have been lowering their price targets for that, and that's just because if the company doesn't report earnings until early June, so they're one of the last ones to report in this earnings cycle. And if they miss it all, yes, the stock is above all-time high, or it's down from its all-time high, but it's still trading at pretty high levels. It could easily be punished if they don't hit on earnings. At the same time, if they beat on earnings, this stock could have more room to run. So there's a little bit of risk reward here, but I think CrowdStrike really, it's a good pick. And I think if companies are afraid to get in because of what happened last summer, I don't think that's the concern anymore.
Yeah, they've already kind of overcome the bad news event and have had a huge, really impressive turnaround and recovery after that event. A lot of interesting picks here for investors to consider. Thanks for your list, Chris, and thank you for watching. Let us know what you think. What's your favorite cybersecurity stock on the list? Are there some that we're missing that you are excited about in the cybersecurity field? Or are you a little skeptical about whether these valuations are too high from what the analysts have to say about these cybersecurity stocks? We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Let us know. And thanks again for watching, everyone. As always, happy investing.